Welcome to another episode of Pistons of Fury. In this episode, join me as we wrap up the hot side on our 1966 Dodge Coronet station wagon LS Turbo Swap. Okay, so in today's video, what we're working on is I'm kind of revisiting my hot side setup here. So what you've just seen is me basically just disassembling this. Took the turbo off, took a lot of my piping off that I fabricated, and disconnected my part of my hot side coming from the driver's side, feeding up into my merge collector here. So the issue I'm trying to solve with this is basically because of these two guys. So this is the water pump inlet and outlet. My up pipe here from the crossover was too close to be able to use the stock OEM hoses and run these to my heating or cooling system and basically just out the back. So I would have had to close those up, tap the top, add new things, probably go AN, just a whole bunch of extra expense and fab work. So I figured since I still had the cold side or the hot side just tacked up here, that it'd be really easy for me just to cut some of my tack welds and reroute that. So I'm basically aiming to come up through here and come back up kind of around and just give myself some more clearance for these. So I'm just going to be cutting apart some hot side pipes, probably making some more pie cuts out of this mandrel bent piece that I have and rerouting. So quick project, but it should give me some clearance, and then I'll be able to actually start final welding some of this and get it on the way to getting it coated. So more cutting and welding. Alright, so here's where we are. Got everything mocked up. This is all tacked into place, so V-band to V-band, and actually that, surprisingly, my China eBay V-band for this 2 1/4 inch pipe stripped the bolt, and I had to kind of break that off. So just have this clamp holding it on for now, but that's all, it's where it needs to be. So basically just comes down here, routes in front of the pulley, under my coolant hose. I checked the turbo when I was mocking it up, so I have no interference from my cold side, I guess, cold side outlet. I will need to wrap this. I'm not going to use the traditional wrap. I have a different kind of wrap or insulator that I have spec'd, so I'll need to be sure that I keep it insulated from this coolant pipe and also from the heater hoses back here, and these will have their own heat shield on them. So I think next thing I need to do is just pull this off and finish weld it. Pretty confident at this point I will not have to change that again. So that was the big task, is to get it clear here. So accomplished that, just threw this 5/8 inch heater hose on there just to make sure. Yeah, and then again here I've got to come in with I have a silicone adapter that I've ordered, which is just 1 3/4 to 1 1/2 inch, just because my radiator is not a stock LS radiator, so it wasn't the right size for that. Yeah, I think I'm just going to pull it off and finish welding. This is my last, aside from the wastegate, this is the last piece that I actually haven't finished welding. I've been kind of welding some stuff in the background between videos, but this is my last big hot side piece to weld, so I'm going to pull it off and weld it up. Okay, so one thing I want to do with this car is eventually I want to run individual EGT gauges or EGT probes in each of the cylinders on both sides. So what I'm going to do now is basically just come in here and I'm going to fab up the little screw-in mounts, the bungs, for each of those EGT probes. And I just want to get that done on this before I get this coated, so that I don't have to mess with it post-coating. Probably not going to do that initially just because the systems are expensive, ranging between $800 to $1,000, but the way I see it is long-term insurance once I get the car running. So I'm going to go ahead and mock those up now and get them tacked into place. Okay, so small change of plans here. For whatever reason, this steel is just killing my stepper drill bits. So instead of actually drilling out the hole to the full size, let's see, so if you see this bung, there's a little bit of a lip, and I think the intent is that you drill the hole big enough so that this step or the lip fits right in, and then you weld it there. I think what I'm going to do is I have the holes drilled big enough to clear the entire internal diameter of these bungs, and I think that's just going to be good enough. So I'm going to come in here and basically tack these in place, and then I'll actually just use this little recessed part to help build up the weld. So instead of going all the way and fully sinking it, we're just going to go above, make sure the hole's lined up, and just weld it like that. So I think that'll be good enough, because this is just, yeah, it's killing all my drill bits. Okay, so have the header bolted back in the car. This is just temporary because what I'm going to do next is actually start to create the up pipe for my wastegate. I don't have the wastegate yet, but I will at some point in the future. But again, the goal here is to get everything done I need to do to this part of the hot side so that I can get it ready to get coated. So that includes basically just coming in here and building a little up pipe for the wastegate. So I'm going to do that now. I've got a mandrel bend that's 2 inches. I'm going to be using a 50mm wastegate, which works out to be almost exactly 2 inches, so that's good. So we'll do the up pipe here off of this piece. And the big concern here is I've got my crossover on the bottom here, and I'm going to have the wastegate here. I know this is going to create a lot of turbulence in here. I am not a aerodynamics engineer or expert by any means. It seems like it's going to get really turbulent. But again, I want to have a nice smooth flow into the wastegate. I don't need I want to make sure that I don't put it in the wrong direction First of all, obviously it can't be facing backwards, so I want to try to integrate it into the flow of this pipe so that the gas, when the wastegate opens, has a really efficient way to exit. So that's the goal. So I just wanted to mock it up on the car so I get it looking straight when it's in the car, and then I'll pull it off and do my final cutting and welding. Okay, so I've got a few more things I need to do, actually to both sides, to both headers. One thing I forgot to do, which I actually have the parts for, I just completely forgot to do it, is add my O2 bungs. So this is the passenger side header where the turbo mounts. I need to do an O2 bung, just a narrow band on the collector side of this, probably right on this side here, because that'll be facing toward the outside. And then also I need to do one on the other side, the driver's side, and then I also need to do one on this downpipe that I thought I was done with, but I'm not. I'm actually going to do two O2 bungs up here on the top, one for a wideband O2 that I'm going to run, and then one for if I ever go get it tuned, or when I go get it tuned at a dyno session, they'll have a bung that I've got a stainless steel plug for, so they'll be able to do that. So the other thing I have to do is come in here. I welded this this upspout for my wastegate, but it does come up a little too high, so I need to take about an inch off of that. So I actually did for Christmas. I got this BS Racing. It's a 50mm wastegate. It's a China gate, but they've I guess they do some quality control here in the US, and they've got a pretty good manufacturer after going through a few of them. So this should be good. I think my placement should be okay. Should be enough gate to hold the boost down. Came with all these, came with the whole V-band kit for it, so it's all good. But I do need to mount it because it does sit up pretty high. This is, I would say, a good 6 inches tall. So Yeah, I got to cut that spout down, then tack on my O-ring for it, or my V-band ring for it, and we'll go from there. So got a bunch of work to do. Gonna get started. Okay, so one thing to note is when you're installing wideband sensors, you don't actually want the entire sensor protruding way down into the exhaust pipe, especially in a turbo setup where your exhaust temps are really high. All that's going to do is decrease the life of your O2 sensor. So I'm using some of these I just had laying around, but I just wanted to get a feel for how deep the actual probe part of the sensor went, and it looks like I've got a downstream and an upstream. I'm going to use the upstream as my gauge for this, but they say you're supposed to get the O2 sensors that are about an inch deep, right? So this is a really thin O2 sensor you can weld right on. So what I'm going to do is actually have some of the correct diameter pipe laying around, just some scrap. So I'm basically going to cut a small piece of that and weld it to my bung, and then I'll weld the pipe to my actual exhaust pipe. So I need to cut, I guess I got to measure it, but probably about a half inch or so of pipe. Yeah, these bungs are about a half an inch, or actually probably even closer to a quarter of an inch. So I've got to cut about 3/4 inch of pipe, weld that to the bung, then I'll weld that to my manifold. Okay, quick update here. So I have got the neck for my wastegate cut down probably as much as I can, and much as I can with still being able to weld it, because eventually this flange will interfere with that. If I had to do it again, I'd probably do the wastegate first and then do the rest of this stuff, but that's a lesson for another project. So just kind of using this bar, I went and measured the hood, and I think I'm going to end up so that the top of this wastegate is right in a little pocket. There's braces on the underside of the hood, and depending on where you are on the underside of the hood, you've got another inch or two's worth of clearance. So I think I'm in the clear with respect to where this wastegate's going to pop up. So I think this is the final height. I'm going to back up here and give you a different view. So this looks like it's going to clear. So I'm going to weld it in there, and I guess before I pull the engine and do the final paint and everything, I'll go ahead and throw the hood on, make sure everything does clear before I coat the headers and all that stuff. So yeah, that's where it's gonna be. So I'm gonna get in here, try to tack it in place, and then I'll do the finish welding over on my makeshift welding table. And here it is, the finished product. So basically I've put everything that I've fabbed up back in here. So everything from the air intake pipe to the intercooler piping. The coolant pipe is kind of mocked up. Other side, exhaust manifold, crossover pipe, again the wastegate and the downpipe and all of that. So the next step in this build is actually starting to do some of the other plumbing tasks that I have to do up here. So we've got to do we've got to finish the cooling system, finish the oil system, finish the what do you call the air system, that's the crankcase ventilation PCV system. Got to do that too. So lots more system fabrication up here in the engine bay. And as you see here, I've actually been working on some of the wiring in the background. I'll be doing a separate video on exactly the approach I'm taking for the wiring on this. I'm using all stock harness, stock ECU, so we'll get into that later. Anyway, hot side is done. Put a period on that. It's absolutely done. Again, I did two O2 bung sensor here, 202 bungs here for 202 sensors. I've got a wideband here downstream that's going to be permanent. This one here, the top one is plugged right now with a stainless steel plug, just because if I go to get a dyno tuned, or when I go to get a dyno tuned, that'll be accessible for the tuner. So hopefully that's good for them. But again, vibrant flex coupling. This came in handy because this actually did, when I fully welded this, it did definitely shrink or warp or something like that. So if you're doing a wastegate dump, a recirc, definitely go with one of these flex joints. It's a lifesaver. Yeah, so got it all done. Again, stuff continues to be a ton of work, but highly gratifying. We're getting close. This is looking more like a operational engine bay. Piece by piece, we're getting there. Again, so thanks for watching. Feel free to drop me any comments or questions or any things you might have, thoughts, whatever. Dump them in the comments and I'll hit you back. But thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.